Well, I don't know what happened. I deleted the other video because it was only 11 seconds long. I just spent 20 minutes of my life reading the last 2 chapters to y'all, and you weren't even able to see it. So, we're gonna try this again. And I want y'all to have the last bit of the story, obviously, and we'll go ahead and get this started, I guess. Again, take 2. Let me find it again. So obviously, I didn't use the bookmark when I closed the book. So, yeah. We were in the coffee shop where David saw Senna. Chapter 31. Senna? I whispered. Senna. Yes, David, it's me. I couldn't talk. Not for what felt like a long time. I just stood there, staring, swaying back and forth a little, like I might fall over. You're not here, I said. Everyone says you're still missing. It's been days. You're not here. She smiled a cool, easy smile. I'm here, she said, for now. With numb fingers, I pulled out a chair and sat down hard. What the hell is going on? Lots of things are going on, she said. That made me mad. Don't jerk me around, Senna. She sipped her tea carefully, like it was too hot. There's going to be a battle, Senna said. Yeah, I know. I'm there thanks to you. Stay out of it, she said. When the moment comes and you see a chance to run away, run. Run and keep running. I flushed. I don't think so. This isn't your fight, David. It is a single battle in a war that will spread inevitably throughout Everworld. Great forces are at work. I know that now. Greater than I could have ever guessed. But I still need you, David. I still need you to be my champion. Not to die in battle. She put her hand on mine. It felt real. The way my body reacted felt real. Loki does a very good impression of you, I said harshly. Does he? She leaned into me and kissed me. Run, David. Run away. And then she was gone. And the people at the next table were carefully not looking at me, the way you ignore a lunatic in a public place. Only I had seen her. I woke in Everworld to a cry that has dragged many sailors from their sleep down through the ages. Land! Land! Not just land. Not some bare cliff or tree-covered point of land. The sun was rising, bright and buttery yellow, as if we'd been traveling south for weeks and months rather than east for 2 days. We were approaching the mouth of a wide river. Numerous small craft plied back and forth, primitive, even by Viking standards. I saw no warships, no ships at all that would merit the word. Nothing that would sail out to challenge us as we stood in toward land, menacing, closer and closer, silent and deadly. On the left bank of the river was what might have been a fishing village. It looked not very different from the Viking village, but was more sprawling, a collection of mud and thatch huts without defensive walls or a definable perimeter. It might have almost been picturesque, except that was totally overshadowed by the city on the right bank. Not a village, a city. The city looked ancient and modern all at once. The walls of shining white stone were perhaps 100 feet high. I saw no towers. It wasn't a castle built for defensive war. It was a wall raised against the jungle that pressed in all around the wall. A sea of dark, almost black green that flowed down from distant mountains. Green, unbroken green as far as the eye could see. The city rose beside the river, From the edge of this jungle, a brilliant, blinding Escher print rendered in color. Since the town sloped uphill, I could see some of what was beyond the walls. Straight as a ruler street, lined with white stone buildings and tile roofs. Feldspar. Feldspar, come here. Come here. You're okay. You're okay. Shh. Feldspar, come here. Feldspar. Feldspar, come here. Lay down. Feldspar, lay down. Feldspar. Down. Good. Shh. Shh. Here and there at intervals, pyramids rose, peeking over the wall. They were stepped, not smooth, 2 or 3 times the height of the walls, and these pyramids would have seemed fabulous and incredible, except that one period made the others look like foothills next to Mount Everest. It rose so high, I think it could literally have touched the clouds. It was so vast, so monumental, I wondered that the ground could support it. The entire rest of the city, every stone and buildings and walls, could not have built a quarter of that mountain of rock. Down the center of the pyramid was a broad stairway, steps shorter than the step-back construction of the pyramid itself. A rust-red stain ran down the top third of the steps. The city of Huitzilopochtli, Thorolf announced with satisfaction. "We're attacking that?" Christopher asked. "That is what we must do, yes. There lies the ransom demanded by Loki, there atop the Great Pyramid within the temple itself." "What's the ransom?" April asked. "The head of Huitzilopochtli." "Say what?" "Isn't he a god?" April pressed. "You can't just chop off a god's head, can you?" "Mere mortals? No. A mortal may not kill an immortal, as anyone who has heard the sagas and Eddas, the great poems and tales, knows. But he hesitated and frowned. Perhaps I will leave that unsaid. I heard Sven Sword Eater's thick, mangled speech coming from behind me. "That one good, Thorolf." Thorolf grinned. "Great Thor is lost to us, but we know not where or how, but his hammer, Mjolnir, is not." We all stared stupidly, having no idea what this might mean. "King Olaf Ironbutt as the hammer of Thor," Sven said. "Mjolnir carries the power of Thor's almighty arm within it. Mjolnir, we may kill Huitzilopochtli and Thor slew the frost giants." So, that was the weapon Olaf had bragged about. Thor's hammer. Christopher turned to April. "Nurse Ratched, I'll take my medication now." A new level of activity broke out aboard the ships as we glided toward landfall. Men sharpened their swords and axes. Officers went over their chainmail shirts carefully, checking for any small defect. The archers laid out their arrows, trimming the feathers, filing the iron arrowheads. I asked Thorolf for a sword. He didn't argue, but he didn't have a spare. He wasn't a rich man, he protested. Besides, he preferred an axe. It was Sven who armed me. He sent his man for a sword and had a servant buckle it around my waist. "I have no mail shirt for you, nor any helmet, nor shield," he said. "Thanks for the sword," I said, trying not to feel too much like an idiot amateur. "The Aztecs fight with spears and swords of obsidian. Our iron blades will break theirs, and their shields are like cutting through cheese. But be careful of the throwing spears. They are quick with their throwing spears." The guys on the shore weren't standing around idly as we approached. They had to have been blind to not see us. And they weren't blind. We heard distant horns echoing from the city walls. Tiny human figures could be seen racing along the wall. But an hour went by with us almost ashore before a column of troops fantastically arrayed in bright turquoise and crimson feathers came trotting out of the main gate down toward the puny sand beach where we would land. We were in the river's current now, so we went to the oars. Moving with surprising ease upstream, closer, closer, closer. My heart more and more in my throat. Jaleel stood beside me as I rowed. "This is a real war, David," he said. "This is for real. These guys are going to be hacking one another up here." I nodded, conserving energy. "This isn't our fight, man. This isn't about you hating your life or whatever. This isn't about some macho pose. This is real, serious screaming and dying war." I shot him a quick look. He sounded like Senna. "Run away, David." "Question for you, Jaleel." I rasped out between strokes. "You see those guys on shore? You have a point to make? You figure those guys know we're not Vikings?" He bit his lip. I don't know why, but it made me glad to see Jaleel was scared. I'd have been more scared myself, only I was focused on rowing. And focusing on what had happened when I gone up against Loki. Focusing on maybe wiping that out. Maybe putting that behind me. Or maybe getting killed. Blade biting into me, cutting me, tearing me open. My insides spilled out into the sun. I had to focus to keep my grip from tightening into a panic cramp on the oar. "Screw it," Jaleel said bitterly. "If I'm getting killed, I'm inflicting some pain first." He went off in search of a weapon. I had a sudden clear image of a spear thrusting right through my body. Right through my stomach, first the point pressing against cloth and ripping through flesh, the wound widening as the spearhead flared out, the blood seeping out around the black stone blade, the spear pushing through my internal organs, out through my back, between my ribs, pierced through and through, impaled. It was an image from dreams I'd had since I was 6. Impaled. Helpless. I missed my stroke and I felt the oar behind mine whap hard, sending an impact up to my hands. For once, Jocelyn didn't come over and scream bloody murder. I guess he was focused on battle, like everyone on the boat. Like everyone on all long boats. The beach was close now. I could see individual faces of the wall of soldiers facing us. I could see sun glinting on black spears. "Taking the sail?" a voice roared. Crewmen, already expecting the order, shining up the mast while the others hauled on the ropes. "Archers! Oars up!" Then a scraping sound that shook the ship. We were beached. Beside us were other ships, the ship we had raced. Carved prows hit the sand. It was going to happen. Right now, it was going to happen. Fire! A dozen bowstrings twanged, a dozen arrows flew from all around me, and dozens more from the other ships. Ships were still coming in, still landing, and arrows flew, flew, flew. The first Aztecs began to die. Howling, screaming, tugging at arrows that stuck in their shoulders, bellies, legs, groins, necks, eyes. "Our eyes!" Harold bellowed, appearing at the bow of the ship and waving his sword in the air. The Vikings leaped up, grabbed their shields, gripped their swords, and began a sustained, bloodthirsty roar. "Attack!" Harold cried, but some of his men hadn't waited. A huge blonde Viking leaped to the sand, screaming like a madman, screaming in throat-tearing rage, insane, uncontrollable, berserk. He landed, stumbled, caught himself, and went barreling toward the Aztec line. Then it was pandemonium. I couldn't have resisted if I wanted to. A mass of men all around me, running, climbing into the gunwale, leaping, falling, staggering, running, pushing, all of us shouting, all of us pulsing with adrenaline, all mad and scared. It was electric. I can't find another word. It was electric. My body tingled. My brain was somewhere else. I wasn't David Levin anymore. It wasn't me, an individual. I was lost in the mass of madness, raw, screaming fury. I ran. We roared into the Aztec line. Spears thrust at me. Dodge. Ah! Stab me? I'll chop your head off. I'll kill you. Kill you. Kill. I raised my sword high over my head, shot wild looks left and right, panting, grasping as my heart refused to let up and let me catch a breath. Eyes locked on me, dark, deep-set, ferocious eyes. I saw him. I saw him lunge with the spear, quick as a snake. The black spearhead aimed right at my stomach. I twisted right. I swung my elbow forward, caught the spear point on its flat side, and felt it slice through my shirt and graze flesh. I swung back, left elbow twisting toward the Aztec's face. He was unbalanced, leaning forward. I caught him on the side of his head. He staggered. He fell face down in the sand at my feet. Another spear, this one wide. I swung my sword down and cut into the Aztec's helmet. I didn't see what happened next. I didn't know if I injured or killed the man. Too much was happening all around me, yelling, cries, grunts of effort as men swung heavy weapons. From the center of the line of battle there came a new note, a roar of triumph, laughter, and moans of despair. And suddenly I saw him, Olaf Ironfoot. He stood alone, tall, wild, bellowing. In his hand, a massive hammer with a short handle, just enough to grip. He swung the hammer into the head of an Aztec. The warrior didn't just drop, he flew. It was as if he'd been hit by a truck. He tumbled across the sand into his brothers. The hammer of Thor, Thorolf cried. The Viking army began to chant, Mjolnir, Mjolnir. The Aztec line broke and ran. They ran and we were on them, stomping over the wounded, screaming ourselves hoarse, yelling, Mjolnir, Mjolnir. As insane as the rest, as caught up in the frenzy of slaughter, we chased the Aztecs as they ran for the walls of their city, across the sand, onto the paved road. And then I felt a shadow. I looked up, a cloud? No, darker than any cloud. The sun had risen behind the huge pyramid. It almost seemed to be sitting atop the pyramid. And from that sun, at the top of that monstrous pyramid, a shape appeared. Huitzilopochtli. He was shaped like a man, blue, the blue of the sky late on a summer day, his face striped horizontally with bands of blue and yellow. Around his eyes were glittering white stars, stars that seemed real and hot and explosive. Iridescent feathers grew from his head, spreading down across his shoulders and back. In his left hand he held a disc, a mirror that smoked and burned. In the right hand was a snake, a twisting, writhing snake that breathed fire and almost seemed an extension of his hand. In his other hand, the one that held the mirror, dripped red. It dripped red, and you knew deep down it would never be wiped clean. Huge. How could he be so big? How could his shadow fall on me that distance away? And how could his shadow reach inside me, down into my soul? I had felt dread in Loki's presence. This was different. This was the heart and soul of evil. This was corruption and filth and torture and madness. This was Huitzilopochtli, blood-mad god of the Aztecs. Run away, David. I heard Senna's voice in my head. run away. That's it for Everworld, Search for Senna, the first of 12 in the Everworld series. So we will get started bright and early tomorrow because I have a doctor's appointment and I start my new job tomorrow. So we're going to get very early wake-up stories tomorrow, and we will start the second book, Land of Loss. And we'll see what's going on with these Aztecs. So I hope that this one worked. Sorry about the last video. Don't know what happened, but see you tomorrow.